Hello, and welcome back to English in Fluency. I am your host, Alex. I am so happy that you are here with me today. Take a moment to look around you. Take a deep breath. Relax your shoulders. Today, we are going to do something very special together. We are not just going to learn grammar rules or memorize lists of vocabulary words. No, today, we are going to talk about the heart of learning English. We are going to talk about confidence. We are going to talk about that feeling you have when you want to speak, but you are afraid of making a mistake. I know that feeling well, and I know that you have felt it too. But I also know that you are improving every single day, even when you do not see it. In this session, we are going to travel through several stories. We will meet people just like you, Elena, Lucas, Sophia, and others, who are on a journey to learn English and face their challenges. Through their stories, we will practice listening, we will learn new phrases, and we will discover how to believe in ourselves. So, if you are ready, let us begin. Our story begins on a rainy Tuesday afternoon in a small, busy city called Rivertown. The rain was falling softly against the window of a small apartment. Inside, Elena was sitting at her kitchen table. She had a cup of warm tea in her hands, but she was not drinking it. She was staring at her phone. Elena had moved to Rivertown only 3 months ago. It was a beautiful city with tall buildings, green parks, and friendly people. But for Elena, it was also a place of silence. She felt like she was living inside a glass box. She could see everyone talking and laughing, but she could not join them. Her English was at a B1 level. She could understand simple conversations, and she could read signs and menus. But when it was time to speak, her mind went blank. Do you know that feeling? It is the feeling that your words are stuck in your throat. Elena looked at her phone again. She needed to call the internet company to fix her connection. It was a simple task. She had practiced the sentences in her head 10 times. She knew what to say, but her finger hovered over the call button, shaking slightly. She was terrified that they would speak too fast. She was afraid she would not understand their questions. She put the phone down. "Not today," she whispered to herself. "Maybe tomorrow." Let us pause here for a moment. I want you to think about Elena. Have you ever avoided a phone call because you were nervous? Have you ever walked away from a conversation because you were afraid to speak? If you answered yes, I want you to know that this is normal. It is part of the journey. Repeat this sentence with me now. Say it out loud or in your head. I am brave for trying. Let's say it again. I am brave for trying. Good. Elena felt like a failure because she did not make the call. But she was not a failure. She was just learning. The next morning, the sun came out. The rain had stopped, and the streets of Rivertown were shining. Elena decided to go for a walk. She needed to buy some bread from the bakery down the street. This was her daily challenge. The bakery was run by a man named Mr. Henderson. Mr. Henderson was a kind man with a loud voice and a big mustache. He spoke very quickly, and he used a lot of slang. Elena always felt nervous when she entered his shop. She walked to the bakery, taking deep breaths. 1, 2, 3. She opened the door, and the smell of fresh bread hit her nose. It smelled like comfort. There was a line of people waiting. Elena stood at the back. She listened to the customers in front of her. One woman ordered a dozen bagels. A man ordered a chocolate cake for his daughter's birthday. They spoke so easily. Their words flowed like water. Elena felt her heart beating faster. What if she forgot the word for sliced? What if she said the wrong number? Finally, it was her turn. Mr. Henderson looked at her and smiled. "Good morning," he said loudly. "What can I get for you today, young lady?" Elena opened her mouth. She wanted to say, "I would like a loaf of whole wheat bread, sliced, please." But her brain froze. The words were there, but they were mixed up. She pointed at the bread behind the glass. "That one," she said softly. Mr. Henderson squinted. "Which one? The sourdough?" Elena nodded quickly. "Yes, thank you." She paid and left the shop. Outside, she looked at the bag. It was not the bread she wanted. It was sourdough, and it was not sliced. She felt a tear roll down her cheek. It was such a small thing, just bread. But it felt like a huge defeat. Have you ever had a moment like this? A moment where you settled for something you did not want because it was easier than explaining yourself? It is okay. Be gentle with yourself. Elena sat on a bench in the park and looked at the bread. She felt angry at herself. "Why is this so hard?" she thought. "I have been studying for years. I should be better by now." But here is the secret, my friends. Progress is not a straight line. Sometimes you go up, and sometimes you stay flat. This is called a plateau. It feels like you are not moving, but actually, your brain is absorbing everything. You are building a foundation. While Elena was sitting there, a dog ran up to her. It was a small, happy dog with golden fur. A moment later, a young man came running after the dog. "Oh, I am so sorry," the man said. "He is very friendly. He just loves people." Elena wiped her face quickly and looked up. The man was smiling. He looked about her age. His name was Julian. "That is okay," Elena said. Her voice was a bit shaky. "He is cute." Julian sat down on the other end of the bench. "I am Julian, by the way," he said, "and this crazy dog is Max. Do you live around here?" Elena panicked for a second. A conversation. A real conversation with a stranger. She could just say, "Yes," and leave. But she looked at Max the dog, who was resting his head on her knee. "Yes," she said. "I live in the apartment building over there. I moved here 3 months ago." Julian nodded. "Nice. I love this neighborhood. Where are you from originally?" Elena told him her home country. She waited for him to make a face, or to ask her to repeat herself. But he didn't. He just listened. "Oh, wow," Julian said. "I have always wanted to visit there. I heard the food is amazing." Elena smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. "Yes, the food is very good. Much better than this bread." She pointed to the sourdough. Julian laughed. "Did you buy the wrong bread?" Elena nodded. "I wanted whole wheat." But I got nervous. I could not find the words. Julian looked at her with kind eyes. He did not laugh at her. He did not make her feel stupid. "Hey, that happens," he said. "I tried to learn Spanish last year. I once asked for a hairbrush in a restaurant instead of a spoon. It was a disaster." They both laughed. Elena felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She realized something important in that moment. Julian was not judging her grammar. He was not counting her mistakes. He was just connecting with her. He was interested in her story, not her verb tenses. This is a very important lesson for you to remember. When you speak English, the goal is connection, not perfection. Repeat that with me. Connection, not perfection. Most people are kind. Most people want to understand you. Julian and Elena talked for another 10 minutes. Elena made a few mistakes. She said, "he go," instead of "he goes." She struggled to find the word for neighborhood. But the conversation continued. When Julian stood up to leave, he said, "You know, your English is good. I understood everything you said. You should believe in yourself more." Elena walked home with the wrong bread, but she felt like she was walking on air. She had done it. She had a conversation. Let us analyze what happened here. Why was Elena successful with Julian, but unsuccessful in the bakery? In the bakery, she was focused on fear. She was thinking about making a mistake. With Julian, she was focused on the message. She was focused on the dog and the story. When you stop worrying about your performance, your English flows better. It naturally comes out. Over the next few weeks, Elena decided to change her routine. She realized that hiding in her apartment was not helping her. She needed to be brave. She decided to go to the local library. Libraries are wonderful places. They are quiet, peaceful, and full of words. Elena found a corner where she could study. She brought her notebook and her vocabulary lists. But she also did something else. She started listening. She listened to the librarians talking to visitors. She listened to the sound of the language. One day, while she was at the library, she saw a poster on the wall. It said, "Volunteer needed. Reading to children. Saturdays at 10 a.m." Elena's heart skipped a beat. Reading to children? In English? The idea terrified her, but she remembered Julian's words. "You should believe in yourself more." She remembered the feeling of success she had on the park bench. She walked up to the desk. The librarian was a woman named Mrs. Gable. Mrs. Gable wore glasses on a chain and had a warm smile. "Hello," Elena said. She took a deep breath. "I am interested in the volunteer position." Mrs. Gable smiled. "That is wonderful. We need someone to read picture books to the kids. It is very simple. Do you like children?" "Yes," Elena said. "I love children. But English is not my first language. I am afraid my accent is bad." Mrs. Gable leaned forward. "My dear, children do not care about accents. They care about enthusiasm. They care about the story. Why don't you try it? Just once." Elena agreed. The following Saturday, she arrived at the library. Her hands were sweating. 5 children were sitting on a colorful rug. They looked up at her with big, curious eyes. Mrs. Gable handed Elena a book. It was a story about a bear who lost his hat. Elena sat down in a rocking chair. She opened the book. "Hello, everyone," she said. Her voice was quiet. "Speak up, please." A little boy in a red shirt shouted. Elena smiled nervously. "Hello," she said louder. "My name is Elena. Today, we are going to read about a bear." She started to read. At first, she was stiff. She read every word carefully, trying to pronounce it perfectly. But then, she looked at the pictures. The bear looked funny. She decided to change her voice. She made a deep, grumpy voice for the bear. "Where is my hat?" she growled. The children giggled. Elena relaxed. She made a high, squeaky voice for the rabbit in the story. "I have not seen it," she squeaked. The children laughed harder. Elena forgot about her grammar. She forgot about the past tense and the present perfect. She was just telling a story. When she finished the book, the children clapped. "Read it again!" the boy in the red shirt yelled. Elena looked at Mrs. Gable. Mrs. Gable gave her a thumbs up. Elena felt a warm glow in her chest. She realized that she was communicating. She was using English to bring joy to others. This is the power of language. It is a tool. It is a bridge. It is not a test. Think about your own journey. How can you use English to help someone or to make someone smile? Maybe you can write a nice comment on a video. Maybe you can help a tourist with directions. Every time you use English for a real purpose, you build confidence. You prove to your brain that you can do it. Weeks turned into months. Elena continued to volunteer at the library. She continued to see Julian in the park. They became friends. She still made mistakes. Sometimes she used the wrong preposition. Sometimes she had to ask people to repeat themselves. But she no longer felt like she was in a glass box. She was part of the world. One afternoon, Elena was at her job. She worked in a small office doing data entry. She usually kept to herself. But on this day, the phone rang. Her boss was out for lunch. Her co-worker was in the restroom. The phone rang again and again. Elena looked at it. She remembered the rainy Tuesday when she couldn't call the internet company. She remembered the fear. But she also remembered the children laughing at her bare voice. She remembered Julian. She reached out and picked up the phone. "Good afternoon, Miller Supplies. Elena speaking," she said. Her voice was clear. "Hello," a fast voice said on the other end. "I need to speak to Mr. Miller immediately. It is about the shipment of paper. It is late, and we have a deadline." The man was speaking very fast, and he sounded angry. The old Elena would have panicked. She would have handed the phone to someone else or hung up. But the new Elena took a breath. She did not apologize for her English. She simply managed the situation. "I am sorry, but Mr. Miller is out to lunch," she said calmly. "He will be back in 30 minutes. Can I take a message?" The man sighed. "Fine. Tell him to call Mark from logistics." Elena wrote it down. "Could you please spell your last name?" she asked. She was not afraid to ask. "It is Smith," the man said. "Thank you, Mark. I will tell him as soon as he returns." "Thank you," the man said, his voice calmer now. "Goodbye." Elena put the phone down. She looked at her hand. It was not shaking. She had done it. She had handled a difficult call in a second language. She felt a surge of pride. It was a small victory, but it meant everything. It meant that she was capable. It meant that all those hours of listening, studying, and practicing were working. She was improving. And you, listening to this right now, you are improving too. Maybe you feel like Elena did at the beginning. Maybe you feel stuck. But think about how much you understand now compared to 1 year ago. Think about the words you know now that you did not know before. You are building your castle brick by brick. It takes time, but it is happening. Let's take a moment to practice some affirmations. Affirmations are positive sentences that help rewire your brain. I want you to listen to these sentences and repeat them. Believe them. My English is getting better every day. I am confident in my ability to learn. Mistakes are just proof that I am trying. I am proud of my progress. Do you feel the power in those words? When you say them, you change your mindset. You move from fear to confidence. Elena's journey did not end there. Learning a language is a lifelong journey. There were still days when she felt tired. There were still words she did not understand. But she had changed her perspective. She stopped looking at English as a giant mountain she had to climb. Instead, she saw it as a garden she was watering. Some plants grow fast, some grow slow. But if you keep watering them, they will all grow. One evening, Elena and Julian were having dinner at a restaurant. Elena looked at the menu. She saw a complicated dish with many ingredients. She called the waiter over. "Excuse me," she said. "Could you explain what is in the special sauce?" The waiter explained. Elena listened and asked another question. She ordered her meal with confidence. Julian smiled at her. "You have changed, Elena," he said. You are so much more open now." Elena smiled back. "I just stopped being afraid of being imperfect," she said. "I realize that people want to hear what I have to say, even if I say it with an accent. That is the message I want you to take away from Elena. Your voice matters. Your stories matter. But Elena is not the only one. I want to introduce you to another person who found courage in a different way. His name is Lucas. Lucas is someone very relatable. He is someone who felt like his English was a wall stopping him from living his life. But he discovered that the wall was actually a door. Lucas was a graphic designer who had always dreamed of living in a big English-speaking city. He loved the idea of busy streets, historic buildings, and the energy of a metropolis. So, when he finally got the chance to move to a city called Harborview, he packed his bags immediately. He was excited, but he was also terrified. His English was at an intermediate level. He could watch movies with subtitles, and he could read articles online. But speaking was a different story. Speaking felt like stepping off a cliff. The day he arrived in Harborview, the sky was gray and the wind was cold. He dragged his heavy suitcases up the stairs to his small apartment on the 4th floor. The apartment was empty and quiet. He looked out the window at the street below. People were rushing everywhere, talking on their phones, laughing with friends, and shouting for taxis. To Lucas, it looked like a movie that he was not allowed to be in. He felt a sudden wave of loneliness. He realized that he was thousands of miles away from home, and the only tool he had to connect with these people was his imperfect English. The first week was the hardest. Lucas developed a routine of avoidance. He would go to the supermarket late at night to avoid crowds. He would use the self-checkout machines so he did not have to talk to a cashier. He walked with his headphones on, looking down at the pavement, signaling to the world that he was busy. He was building a bubble around himself. One morning, he decided he needed coffee. There was a small, charming cafe on the corner called The Daily Grind. It smelled of roasted beans and cinnamon. Lucas stood outside the door for 5 minutes, rehearsing his order. "1 medium latte, please. No sugar. Thank you." He said it over and over in his head. 1 medium latte. 1 medium latte. Finally, he gathered his courage and pushed the door open. The cafe was loud. The espresso machine was hissing. Music was playing, and people were chatting. Lucas stepped up to the counter. The barista was a young woman with bright green hair and a nose ring. She looked at him and said something very fast. To Lucas, it sounded like, "What do you want, love?" Lucas froze. His rehearsed sentence vanished from his mind. He panicked. "Coffee," he blurted out. "Just coffee." The barista raised an eyebrow. "What kind? Latte? Americano? Cappuccino?" Lucas felt his face getting hot. The people behind him in line started to shift impatiently. "Latte," he whispered. "Size?" she asked. Lucas didn't know the sizes. "Big," he said. He paid and moved to the side, feeling defeated. He had wanted to be polite and natural, but he felt like a child. When he got his coffee, he sat in the farthest corner of the shop. He watched a group of friends sitting nearby. They were laughing and telling jokes. They spoke so fast, interrupting each other, using slang words he had never learned in his textbooks. Lucas felt a heavy weight in his chest. He thought, "I will never be like them. I will always be the foreigner who can't speak." This is a dangerous thought, my friends. It is called the fixed mindset. It is the belief that your ability is fixed and cannot change. But that is a lie. Your brain is like a muscle. It grows when you exercise it. Lucas drank his coffee, which was too hot and too large, and made a decision. He decided that he could not live like this. He had moved here to experience life, not to hide from it. He needed a plan. He took out his notebook and wrote down a goal. Talk to one stranger every day. It seemed impossible, but he knew he had to try. The next day, Lucas went to a nearby park. It was a sunny day, and the park was full of life. He sat on a bench near a duck pond. His heart was pounding because he knew he had to complete his mission. He had to talk to someone. He looked around. An elderly man was sitting on the other end of the bench, feeding the ducks with small pieces of bread. The man wore a tweed flat cap and a thick wool coat. He looked peaceful. Lucas took a deep breath. He shifted on the bench. "Excuse me," Lucas said. His voice was a bit too loud. The old man turned slowly and smiled. His face was full of wrinkles, like a map of a long life. "Hello there, young man," the old man said. "Lovely day, isn't it?" Lucas nodded vigorously. "Yes, very lovely. The sun is good." Lucas mentally kicked himself. The sun is good. That was such basic English. But the old man didn't seem to mind. "It certainly is," the man said. "My name is Arthur. I come here every Tuesday to feed these greedy ducks. Look at that green one. He thinks he owns the pond." Lucas looked at the duck. He didn't know the word for greedy, but he understood the context. "He is the boss?" Lucas suggested. Arthur laughed, a deep, hearty laugh. "Exactly. He is the boss. You are quite right." That small laugh was a breakthrough for Lucas. He realized that he had made a joke, and it had landed. He had communicated an idea, not just a fact. "I am Lucas," he said. "I moved here 2 weeks ago." Arthur nodded. "Welcome to Harborview, Lucas. It can be a big, frightening city at first, but it has a good heart." "Where are you from?" Lucas told him. They spent the next 20 minutes talking. Lucas struggled sometimes. He couldn't find the word for squirrel, so he described it as the small, fast animal with the big tail. Arthur understood immediately. "Ah, the squirrels! Yes, they are thieves." Lucas learned a new word: thief. When they said goodbye, Arthur shook Lucas's hand. "You have good English, Lucas," Arthur said. "You speak clearly. Don't be afraid to use your voice." Lucas walked home feeling lighter. He realized that most people are patient. They are not English teachers holding a red pen to mark your mistakes. They are just humans looking for connection. Encouraged by his success with Arthur, Lucas decided to push himself harder. He needed a job. He had been applying for graphic design jobs online, but he knew he needed to network. He saw a flyer for a creative meetup at a local community center. It was an event for artists and designers to meet and talk. The idea of walking into a room full of strangers and speaking English was terrifying. It was his worst nightmare. But he remembered Arthur's words: "Don't be afraid to use your voice." On Thursday evening, Lucas put on his best shirt and went to the community center. The room was buzzing with conversation. People were holding drinks and showing each other their portfolios. Lucas stood by the snacks table, pretending to be very interested in the potato chips. A woman walked up to him. She had stylish glasses and a confident energy. "Hi," she said. "I haven't seen you here before. I'm Sarah." Lucas swallowed. "Hi, Sarah. I am Lucas. I am a graphic designer." Sarah's eyes lit up. "Oh, awesome. I am an illustrator. What kind of design do you do?" Lucas started to explain his work. He wanted to say that he specialized in minimalist branding for sustainable companies, but his brain froze on the word sustainable. He couldn't remember it. He paused. The silence felt like it lasted for an hour. He felt the familiar panic rising. But then he stopped. He took a breath. He looked at Sarah and said, "I am sorry. I forgot the word. I make designs for companies that care about the planet. Green companies." Sarah smiled and nodded. "Sustainable companies?" she offered. "Yes," Lucas said. "Sustainable. That is the word." Sarah didn't judge him. She didn't walk away. She simply helped him. "That is a great niche," she said. "We need more of that." They continued talking. Lucas realized that it was okay to pause. It was okay to ask for help. It was okay to describe a word if you couldn't remember it. This is a strategy called circumlocution, and it is a sign of fluency, not failure. However, the journey was not without its bumps. One rainy afternoon, Lucas had to take the train to visit a potential client in a different part of the city. He arrived at the station, which was a chaotic maze of tunnels and platforms. The announcements were coming over the loudspeaker, but they were muffled and distorted. "The train to mumble mumble is delayed due to mumble mumble." Lucas couldn't understand a word. He looked at the display board, but it was broken. He felt a surge of anxiety. If he missed this train, he would be late for his meeting. He saw a guard standing near the ticket barrier. The guard looked busy and tired. Lucas hesitated. He didn't want to bother him, but he had no choice. He walked up to the guard. "Excuse me," Lucas said. "Can you help me?" The guard sighed and looked at him. "Yeah? What is it?" "I need to go to Westwood Station," Lucas said. "Which platform is it?" The guard spoke incredibly fast. "Westwood? You gotta take the Northern Line to Central, change for the Red Line, go 3 stops, and it's platform 5. But hurry, doors are closing in 2 minutes." Lucas stood there, stunned. It was too much information, too fast. He caught Northern Line and platform 5, but the rest was a blur. He wanted to say, "Thank you," and just run away, hoping for the best. But he knew that would lead to disaster. He took a deep breath. He remembered his rule. Believe in yourself. He looked the guard in the eye. "I am sorry," Lucas said firmly but politely. "My English is not perfect, and you spoke very fast. Could you please say that again, slowly?" The guard stopped. He looked at Lucas, really looked at him, and his expression softened. He realized he was being unhelpful. "Sorry, mate," the guard said, much slower this time. "Take the Northern Line. Go to Central Station. Change to the Red Line. Then go to Platform 5. Lucas smiled. "Northern to Central. Change to Red. Platform 5. Thank you." "You got it," the guard said. Lucas ran to the train and made it just in time. He sat in his seat, breathing hard. He had advocated for himself. He had controlled the situation. He realized that language is a two-way street. The listener has a responsibility to ask for clarity, and the speaker has a responsibility to be clear. Months passed, and Lucas's life in Harborview transformed. He was no longer the lonely man in the glass box. He had friends. He had clients. He had a favorite table at the Daily Grind, where the barista now knew his order and his name. He still made mistakes. Just last week, he told a friend he was boring when he meant to say he was bored. Everyone laughed, including Lucas. He learned that laughter is a great teacher. One evening, Lucas was walking home along the river. The city lights were reflecting on the water, creating a beautiful, shimmering path. He stopped to look at the view. A group of tourists approached him. They looked lost. They were holding a map and arguing in a language Lucas didn't speak. One of them, a woman, stepped forward and spoke to Lucas in broken English. "Excuse me, please. Where is bridge? Big bridge?" Lucas smiled. He saw himself in her. He saw the fear in her eyes, the hesitation, the bravery of trying to speak a foreign language. He knew exactly how she felt. "Hello," Lucas said clearly and warmly. "The big bridge is that way. It is about 10 minutes walking. You go straight and then turn left at the big clock." He used hand gestures. He spoke at a perfect pace. The woman's face lit up with relief. Thank you very much," she said. "You are welcome," Lucas replied. As they walked away, Lucas felt a profound sense of accomplishment. He was no longer the one asking for help. He was the one giving it. He had become a local. He had become a part of the city's fabric. He realized that his English journey wasn't just about learning words. It was about growing into a stronger, more empathetic version of himself. Let's pause the story of Lucas for a moment and bring this back to you. You, listening right now, you are Lucas. You are on this same path. Every time you listen to a podcast, you are Lucas at the park talking to Arthur. Every time you speak to yourself in the mirror, you are Lucas practicing his coffee order. Every time you don't give up when you don't understand, you are Lucas at the train station. I want you to recognize your own bravery. It takes so much courage to learn a language as an adult. It is vulnerable, it is messy, but it is also beautiful. You are expanding your world. You are unlocking access to millions of new people, millions of new ideas, and millions of new stories. You are not bad at English. You are learning English. The difference is huge. Bad is a label. Learning is a process. I want to give you a practical exercise to do this week, inspired by Lucas. It is called the Narrator Challenge. As you go about your day, I want you to narrate your life in simple English sentences, either out loud or in your head. If you are making breakfast, say, "I am taking the eggs out of the fridge. I am cracking the egg. The pan is hot." If you are walking to the bus, say, "The sky is blue today. That car is red. I am walking fast." Why do this? Because it connects your daily reality with English thinking. It bridges the gap between your life and the language. When you do this, you stop translating from your native language and start thinking directly in English. It feels strange at first, but it is incredibly effective. Lucas did this constantly. He narrated his designs, his walks, even his feelings. It helped him find the words he needed before he needed them. Now, let's practice some positive affirmations together. I will say a phrase, and I want you to repeat it. You can whisper it, shout it, or just think it loudly. Ready? I am patient with myself. I focus on connection, not perfection. Every mistake is a step forward. I have a voice, and it deserves to be heard. I am capable of handling difficult situations. Take a deep breath and let those words settle into your heart. They are the truth. The fear you feel is just a feeling. It is not a fact. The fact is that you are intelligent, capable, and improving. Now I want to take you into a different situation. I want to take you into the world of work and education. Many of you are learning English because you want to advance your career or study at a university. This brings a different kind of pressure. It is not just about ordering coffee. It is about expressing complex ideas. It is about being respected. I know many of you feel that if your grammar is not perfect, people will think you are not intelligent. This is a very common fear, but I am here to tell you that your intelligence is not defined by your verb tenses. Your intelligence shines through your ideas. To explore this, I want to tell you the story of Sophia. Sophia's story is about finding your voice in a room full of loud people. It is a story about the power of preparation and the courage to ask questions. Sophia was a brilliant architect. In her home country, she was known for her creative designs and her ability to solve difficult problems. She was confident, funny, and respected. But recently, Sophia had moved to a large international city to work for a prestigious architecture firm. It was her dream job. The office was modern and glass-walled, filled with models of skyscrapers and bridges. But for Sophia, the office felt like a jungle. Her English was good, strong B1 to B2 level, but the office environment was fast, very fast. Her colleagues used idioms she didn't know, like "let's circle back" or "think outside the box." They spoke over each other in meetings. In her own language, Sophia was a leader. In English, she became a shadow. She sat at the back of the meeting room, taking notes, afraid to raise her hand. She had great ideas, but they stayed locked inside her head. She was afraid that if she spoke, she would take too long to find the words, and her colleagues would get impatient. Do you know this feeling? The feeling that you are slowing everyone else down? It is a heavy burden to carry. One Monday morning, the team leader, a man named David, announced a new project. It was a competition to design a new public library for the city. The team was excited. Everyone started shouting out ideas. "We should use sustainable wood," one person said. "No, it needs to be futuristic. Lots of glass," said another. Sophia sat quietly. She had an idea. She visualized a library that looked like a forest, with green spaces inside and natural light. It was a beautiful concept. She opened her mouth to speak, but a loud colleague named Greg spoke first. "I think we should do a concrete structure," Greg said confidently. The conversation moved on. Sophia closed her mouth. She felt small. Later that afternoon, David came to Sophia's desk. "Sophia," he said kindly, "I noticed you were very quiet in the meeting. We hired you for your unique perspective. I want you to present your concept for the library entrance at the Friday meeting. Just 5 minutes. Can you do that?" Sophia's heart stopped. A presentation? In front of the whole team? In front of Greg? She wanted to say no. She wanted to hide. But she looked at David, and she saw that he believed in her. "Yes," Sophia said, her voice tight. "I will do it." The rest of the week was a blur of anxiety for Sophia. She worked on her design, which was excellent, but she spent even more time worrying about her speech. She wrote down exactly what she wanted to say. She translated it from her native language to English, but when she read it out loud, it sounded stiff. It sounded unnatural. She tried to memorize it, but she kept forgetting the words. She felt like she was drowning. On Wednesday evening, she stayed late at the office. Everyone else had gone home except for the cleaner, a woman named Maria. Maria was humming a song as she emptied the bins. She saw Sophia with her head in her hands. "Hard day?" Maria asked. Sophia looked up. "The hardest," she admitted. "I have to speak on Friday. My English. It is not good enough." Maria stopped working and leaned on her broom. "Not good enough for who?" Maria asked. "For the boss? For the queen?" Sophia smiled a little. "For the team. They speak so fast. They are so clever. Maria nodded wisely. Listen, she said, I have been in this country for 20 years. My English is still broken, but I talk to everyone. You know why? Because I listen. I listen to how they say things, and I copy them. And I don't try to be perfect. I just try to be me. Maria's words stuck with Sophia. I just try to be me. Sophia realized she was trying to sound like Greg. She was trying to sound like a native speaker. But she wasn't Greg. She was Sophia. She decided to change her approach. Instead of writing a complex speech with big words, she decided to keep it simple. She decided to focus on the emotion of her design, not just the technical details. She practiced simply. She stood in front of the mirror in the office bathroom. This is the entrance, she said. It welcomes people. It is light. It is warm. Short sentences, clear ideas. She felt better. She also decided to use a tactic called signposting. Signposting is when you tell the listeners where you are going. Phrases like, first, I will talk about, and finally, I want to show you. Help organize your speech and make it easier for people to understand you, even if you have an accent. Sophia practiced her signposting. First, the materials. Next, the lighting. Finally, the feeling. It gave her a structure, a safety net. Friday morning arrived. The meeting room was full. The air conditioner was humming. Sophia stood at the front of the room. Her hands were shaking, so she put them flat on the table to steady herself. She looked at David, who nodded encouragingly. She looked at Greg, who was checking his phone. Good morning, everyone, Sophia said. Her voice was clear. Today, I want to show you a library that is not just a building. It is a forest. Greg looked up from his phone. The room went quiet. Sophia showed her drawings. She didn't use complicated grammar. She didn't try to use idioms she didn't understand. She just spoke from her heart. Look at this light, she said, pointing to the screen. It comes from the top. It makes the reader feel calm. In my country, we believe that reading is nature. I want to bring nature inside. She spoke for 5 minutes. She made one mistake. She said furnitures instead of furniture. A month ago, that would have destroyed her confidence. Today, she just ignored it and kept going. When she finished, there was silence. Sophia held her breath. Had she failed? Then Greg spoke. Wow, he said. I never thought of it that way. The forest concept is amazing. It is much better than the concrete idea. David smiled. Excellent work, Sophia, he said. Very clear, very moving. Sophia sat down. Her legs felt like jelly, but her spirit was flying. She had done it. She hadn't just survived. She had succeeded. And she had learned a valuable lesson. Clarity is more important than complexity. You do not need big words to have big ideas. Simple English, spoken with passion and clarity, is incredibly powerful. Let us think about Sophia's preparation. What did she do right? First, she stopped comparing herself to others. Comparison is the thief of joy. When you compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20, you will always feel bad. Second, she simplified her message. She focused on the core idea. Third, she used visuals. Her drawings helped explain her words. If you are ever in a situation where you have to explain something in English, use props, use pictures, use your hands. Communication is not just words. It is everything you do to get your message across. Now, I want to introduce you to another aspect of this journey. We have talked about speaking to strangers. and we have talked about presenting at work. But what about the social side? What about making friends? This is often the hardest part for B1 learners. You can order a meal, and you can write an email, but sitting in a noisy pub or a cafe with a group of native speakers can be terrifying. They use slang. They make cultural references you don't understand. You feel left out. I want to tell you about a young student named Kenji. Kenji was studying English at a language school in a beautiful coastal town. He was very good at grammar tests. He knew all the rules of the present perfect continuous. But he was lonely. Every Friday, the students from the school would go to a local cafe to hang out. Kenji usually went home. He told himself he had to study, but really, he was afraid. He was afraid of the noise. One Friday, his teacher, an energetic woman named Sarah, stopped him at the door. "Kenji, are you coming to the cafe today?" she asked. Kenji looked at his shoes. "No, teacher, I have homework." Sarah smiled kindly. "Kenji, the cafe is the homework. The real test is not on paper. It is out there. Come, just for 30 minutes. Kenji couldn't say no to Sarah. He walked to the cafe with the other students. It was crowded. There was music playing. Kenji sat at a round table with 3 other students, a girl from Brazil, a boy from Italy, and a girl from France. They were all learning English, but they seemed so much more confident. They were laughing and shouting over the music. Kenji sat quietly, sipping his tea. He tried to listen, but it was hard. The Italian boy, Marco, was telling a story about his host family. "And then," Marco said, waving his hands, "the cat jumped on the table and ate how do you say, the meat from the milk." "Cheese!" shouted the Brazilian girl. "Yes, the cheese!" Marco laughed. "The cat ate the cheese!" Everyone laughed. Kenji smiled politely, but he didn't really understand why it was so funny. He felt isolated. Then the French girl, Celine, turned to him. "Kenji," she said, "do you have pets in Japan?" The table went quiet. They were all looking at him. Kenji felt the panic rising. He wanted to say, "I used to have a dog, but he died last year, and now I have a goldfish because my apartment is too small." But that was too much English. His brain froze. "I have fish," he said simply. "Fish," Marco said. "Fish are boring. You cannot play with fish." Kenji felt a flash of annoyance. Marco was wrong. His fish was not boring. This emotion, this desire to defend his fish, pushed him past his fear. "No," Kenji said, his voice a bit louder. "My fish is not boring. His name is Sumo. He is fat. He dances when I feed him." The table erupted in laughter. "He dances?" Celine asked. "Show us." Kenji used his finger to mimic the fish dancing in the water. The others laughed and cheered. "Sumo is a cool fish," Marco admitted. In that moment, Kenji realized something profound. He didn't need perfect grammar to be funny. He didn't need complex vocabulary to be interesting. He just needed to share a piece of himself. The dancing fish became a joke within the group. For the rest of the semester, whenever Kenji walked in, they would ask, "How is Sumo?" Kenji had made friends. He had broken the barrier. This story teaches us about the importance of willingness to be foolish. When we learn a language, we have to be willing to sound a little bit silly sometimes. We have to be willing to mime a dancing fish. If you take yourself too seriously, you will stay silent. But if you can laugh at yourself, if you can play with the language, people will differ to you. They will want to be around you. Your vibe attracts your tribe. Now, we are going to tackle one of the biggest monsters for any language learner. It is a small object, usually black or silver, that sits in your pocket or on your desk. It is the telephone. I know that for many of you, the telephone is terrifying. When you speak face to face, you can see smiles. You can see hand gestures. You can read lips. But on the phone, you are blind. You rely 100% on your ears. It is the ultimate test of listening. To help us navigate this challenge, I want to introduce you to Matteo. Matteo was a mechanic who moved to the UK to work in a specialized garage. He was excellent with cars. He could fix an engine with his eyes closed. He understood the language of machines perfectly. But the language of people? That was harder. Matteo's English was functional. He could talk to his colleagues in the workshop because they used simple words like wrench, oil, and brakes. But Matteo had a secret fear. He was terrified of the reception desk phone. One rainy afternoon, the receptionist, a kind lady named Brenda, had to leave early. "Matteo," she said, putting on her coat, "I need you to watch the desk until closing time. If the phone rings, just take a message." Matteo nodded, his face pale. "Okay, Brenda, don't worry." But he was worrying. He sat behind the desk. The garage was quiet. Rain was drumming on the roof. Suddenly, the phone rang. It was a loud, shrill sound. Ring, ring. Matteo stared at it. He wanted to let it go to voicemail. But he remembered Brenda's trust. He remembered that he wanted to be a manager one day. Managers answer phones. He took a deep breath, picked up the receiver, and held it to his ear. "Good afternoon, City Garage," he said. He had practiced this phrase. "Hello," a voice said. It was an elderly man. "My car is making a funny noise. It sounds like a clunk, clunk, whiz." Matteo frowned. Clunk, clunk, whiz? He didn't know what that meant. Panic started to rise. But then, his mechanic brain took over. He knew cars. "Sir," Matteo said, focusing on the problem, not the English. "Does it happen when you brake or when you accelerate?" The man paused. "When I brake," he said, "and it pulls to the left." Matteo understood immediately. "Okay," Matteo said confidently. "It sounds like a caliper issue. Bring it in tomorrow at 9 a.m. Tomorrow at 9. "Thank you, son," the man said. Matteo hung up. He blinked. He had done it. He hadn't understood the word whiz perfectly, but he had used his logic to ask the right question. He realized that he didn't need to understand every single sound the customer made. He just needed to identify the key information. He realized that on the phone, he could take control. He could ask the questions. He could guide the conversation. The next day, the phone rang again. This time, Matteo didn't hide. He picked it up. It was a woman with a very fast Scottish accent. Matteo couldn't understand her first sentence at all. It sounded like a melody, not words. In the past, Matteo would have panicked, but this time he used a magic phrase. "I want you to learn this phrase." He said, "I am sorry, the line is a bit bad. Could you please repeat that a little slower? This is a white lie. The line wasn't bad, but it is a polite way to ask someone to slow down without blaming your own English." The woman apologized and spoke slower. Matteo took her booking. He realized that people are usually not angry. They are just in a rush. When you ask them to slow down, they are happy to help. Now, let's shift gears. We have talked about fear. Now I want to talk about the plateau and the danger of studying too much. Yes, you heard me correctly. You can study too much. I want to introduce you to Lynn. Lynn was a dedicated student. She was obsessed with grammar. She had shelves full of textbooks. She spent 3 hours every evening doing grammar exercises. She knew the difference between the past simple and the present perfect better than most native speakers. But Lynn was unhappy. She felt like a robot. When she tried to speak, she was constantly calculating rules in her head. Is this a third conditional? Should I use the gerund here? She was so focused on accuracy that she lost her fluency. She was trapped in the study trap. She knew the theory of swimming, but she was afraid to get wet. One day, Lynn met a friend named Sarah for coffee. Sarah had learned Spanish in just 1 year. How did you do it? Lynn asked, looking at her mountain of flashcards. Did you study grammar all day? Sarah laughed. No, I hate grammar books. I joined a cooking class in Spain. I learned Spanish because I needed to chop the onions and fry the potatoes. I learned by doing. Lynn was skeptical. How can you learn without a book? But she decided to try Sarah's advice. She looked for a local group in her city. She found a watercolor painting class that was taught in English. Lynn was nervous. She wasn't an artist. She arrived at the studio, which smelled of paint and paper. The teacher, a relaxed man named Bob, started the lesson. Okay, everyone, Bob said. Grab your wide brush and dip it in the blue water. Lynn didn't know the word dip, but she watched the other students putting their brushes into the water jars. Ah, she thought. Dip means to put in. She copied them. Now, Bob said, make a sweeping motion across the paper, like a cloud. Lynn watched his hand move, sweeping motion. She understood. For the next 2 hours, Lynn didn't think about verb tenses. She didn't think about prepositions. She was too busy painting. She listened to Bob's instructions. Be gentle. Add more water. Let it dry. She was absorbing language in context. She was connecting the words directly to actions. This is how babies learn. They don't study grammar. They live in the language. By the end of the class, Lynn had a terrible painting of a cloud, but she had learned 10 new words without opening a dictionary. And more importantly, she had spent 2 hours listening to English without feeling stressed. Lynn continued the painting class. She started chatting with the other students. They talked about colors, about their weekends, about their lives. Because they were focused on painting, the conversation felt natural. There was no pressure to be perfect. Lynn realized that English is not a subject to be mastered. It is a tool to be used. This is a crucial lesson for you. If you feel stuck, stop studying. Close the textbook. Put down the pen. Go and do something in English. Watch a gardening tutorial. Play a video game. Join a hiking group. When you engage your hands and your body, your brain learns faster. This is called kinesthetic learning. It anchors the vocabulary in your physical reality. If you learn the word stir while you are actually stirring a soup, you will never forget it. Now, I want to touch on a topic that affects many of us: the fear of judgment from our own countrymen. Often, we are not afraid of native speakers. We are afraid of other people from our own country who speak English better than us. We are afraid they will laugh at our accent. I want to tell you about a young man named Rashid. Rashid was from a country where many people spoke excellent English. He was at a dinner party with his friends. They were all speaking English to practice. Rashid stayed quiet. He had a heavy accent. He rolled his R's, and his vowels were long. He felt that his friends sounded like Americans, and he sounded like a villager. He was ashamed. One of his friends, a guy named Omar, noticed Rashid's silence. "Rashid, why are you so quiet?" Omar asked. Rashid shrugged. My accent, he whispered. It is terrible. I sound stupid. Omar looked at him seriously. Rashid, he said, your accent is your history. It shows where you are from. It shows that you speak two languages. Do not be ashamed of your history. This changed Rashid's perspective. He realized that an accent is not a defect. It is a feature. As long as you are clear, your accent is beautiful. Finally, I want to take you deeper. I want to talk about the heart. Many of you are learning English not for money, not for tests, but for love. This brings us to the story of Amara. Amara was 65 years old. She lived in a warm, sunny house with a big garden full of flowers. She was a wonderful storyteller, but her son had moved to Canada many years ago. He had married a Canadian woman, and they had a little boy named Leo. Leo was 5 years old. He only spoke English. Amara loved Leo more than anything in the world. Every Sunday, she would video call them. She would see Leo's cute face on the screen. She would wave and blow kisses. She would say, "I love you, Leo." And Leo would say, "I love you, Grandma." But that was it. That was the limit of their conversation. Amara wanted to ask him about school. She wanted to tell him the story of the rabbit in the moon. But she couldn't. The language barrier was like a glass wall. She could see him, but she couldn't truly reach him. So, Amara made a brave decision. She decided that age was just a number. She bought a tablet and downloaded a language app. She found a tutor online who specialized in teaching seniors. Her memory was not as fast as it used to be. Sometimes she forgot words she had learned just 5 minutes ago. It was frustrating. She would sit in her garden, holding her head, feeling like it was impossible. "I am too old," she would whisper to her flowers. "My brain is tired." But then she would think of Leo. She would think of the stories waiting inside her, and she would pick up the tablet again. She started labeling things in her house. She put a sticker on the fridge that said fridge. She put a sticker on the mirror that said mirror. Her house looked like a dictionary. One Sunday, 6 months later, the video call started. Leo was on the screen, holding a toy dinosaur. "Look, Grandma!" Leo shouted. "It is a T-Rex! He goes roar!" Amara took a deep breath. She had prepared for this moment. She didn't just wave. She leaned into the camera. "Hello, Leo," she said slowly. "That is a very scary dinosaur." Leo's eyes went wide. Grandma was speaking. "Yes," Leo said. "He eats trees." Amara smiled. She didn't know the word for eats, but she understood the action. "Does he, like, apples?" she asked. It was a simple question, but it was a conversation. Leo laughed. "No, he likes meat." Amara laughed too. Then she did something even braver. "Leo," she said, "I have a story about a small rabbit." Leo sat down. "Tell me," he said. Amara told the story. Her English was broken. She used the present tense instead of the past. But Leo listened. He understood. When she finished, Leo clapped. "I love that story, Grandma," he said. Amara turned off the screen after the call and cried happy tears. She had broken the glass wall. She realized that you don't need perfect grammar to show love. You just need effort. Now, let's leave the home and go on an adventure. Many of you dream of traveling. You dream of London, New York, Sydney. But the best travel experiences often happen when things go wrong. That is when you need your English the most. I want to tell you about Hero. Hero was a young backpacker. He was shy and quiet. He liked to take photos of landscapes. He traveled to a remote part of Ireland to see the green hills and the cliffs. He rented a small car. He was relying on the GPS on his phone to guide him. But, as he drove deeper into the countryside, the signal on his phone disappeared. The blue dot stopped moving. Harrow kept driving, hoping the signal would come back. It didn't. Suddenly, the sky turned dark, and heavy rain began to fall. The road became narrow and muddy. Harrow's car slipped and got stuck in a patch of deep mud. The wheels spun. Vroom, vroom. But the car didn't move. Harrow was stuck. He was alone. It was getting dark. He felt a wave of panic. He sat in the car for 10 minutes, listening to the rain. He realized that nobody was coming to save him. He had to save himself. He saw a small light in the distance, maybe a farmhouse. He put on his jacket and stepped out into the rain. He walked through the mud towards the light. He was shivering. He knocked on the door of the farmhouse. An old man opened it. He looked like a giant, with a big beard and a thick wool sweater. "Hello?" the man grunted. Harrow was terrifyingly nervous. His English was basic. "Excuse me," Harrow said, his teeth chattering. "My car is stuck in the mud. No phone signal. Can you help?" The man looked at Harrow, soaking wet. His face softened. "Come in, lad," the man said. "Get out of the cold." Harrow stepped into the warm kitchen. There was a fire burning. The man's wife brought him a towel and a cup of hot tea. "I am Patrick," the man said, "and this is Mary. Don't worry about the car. I have a tractor. We will pull it out in the morning. You stay here tonight." Harrow couldn't believe it. He tried to say, "Thank you," in a polite way, but he didn't have the complex words. So he just said, "Thank you. You are very kind. You saved me." That evening, Harrow sat by the fire with Patrick and Mary. They ate stew and bread. At first, Harrow was quiet, but Patrick was curious. "Where are you from?" he asked. Harrow told them about his city. He showed them photos on his camera. He struggled to explain some things. He couldn't find the word for skyscraper, so he said, "Buildings that touch the clouds." Patrick loved that description. "Buildings that touch the clouds," Patrick repeated. "That is poetry, lad." They talked for hours. They talked about farming, about families, about the differences in their lives. Harrow realized that if he had not gotten lost, if his car had not stuck, he would be sitting alone in a hotel room scrolling on his phone. Because of his bad luck, he was having the best experience of his trip. He was connecting with real people. The next morning, Patrick pulled the car out with his tractor. Harrow shook his hand. "I will never forget this," Harrow said. Patrick smiled. "Safe travels, Harrow. Come back and see us." As Harrow drove away, he felt a surge of confidence. He had survived a crisis. He had navigated a social situation in a foreign language. He realized that English was not just a subject he studied in school. It was a survival tool. I want to give you a specific technique for when you are stuck in a conversation, like Harrow could have been. It is called the recall technique. Sometimes your mind goes blank. You panic. The recall technique is simple. Take a step back. Don't try to force the word. Instead, describe the function of the thing. If you forget the word umbrella, say, "The thing that protects you from rain." If you forget the word airport, say, "The place where planes fly." If you forget the word bill, say, "The paper that tells me how much to pay." Native speakers do this too. We forget words all the time. We say, "Oh, pass me the thing for the TV." If you do it, it is natural. Do not freeze. Just describe. It keeps the conversation flowing. Let's practice this now. I will give you a word. and I want you to describe it out loud without saying the word. The word is key. Did you say the metal thing to open the door? Or the tool for the lock? Good. The word is teacher. Did you say the person who helps students? Excellent. Now, as we look toward the horizon, I want to talk about the ultimate stage of fluency. It is not just about speaking, it is about giving back. It is about becoming a guide for others. You might think, I am still learning, I cannot teach. But I tell you, you can. When you help someone else, you solidify your own knowledge. To illustrate this final lesson, I want to introduce you to Samuel. Samuel was a retired history teacher in his home country. He had spent 40 years teaching students about the past. When he retired, he decided to fulfill a lifelong dream. He wanted to write a book about his city's history in English, so the whole world could read it. Samuel was 70 years old. His friends told him he was crazy. They said, "Samuel, English is for young people with flexible brains. Enjoy your retirement in the garden." But Samuel had a fire in his belly. He started writing. It was agonizingly slow. He would spend an hour writing one sentence. He would check the dictionary 50 times a day. He felt like he was climbing a mountain with a heavy backpack. He often felt discouraged, looking at the blank page, feeling the words trapped inside him. One day, Samuel was at the public library, struggling with a paragraph about the 19th century. He saw a young woman sitting nearby. She was crying. She had a textbook open in front of her. It was a beginner's English grammar book. Samuel hesitated. He didn't want to disturb her, but his teacher's instinct was stronger than his fear. He walked over. "Excuse me," he said gently. "Is everything okay?" The young woman looked up. Her eyes were red. "No," she said. "I have an exam tomorrow. I do not understand the difference between make and do. It makes no sense. I will fail." Samuel smiled. He knew this problem well. He sat down. "Listen," he said. "It is simple. You make something new, like a cake or a mistake. You do a task, like homework or the dishes. Creation versus action." The young woman stopped crying. She looked at the book. "Make a cake. Do homework," she whispered. "Oh, I see it now." In that moment, Samuel changed. He was no longer just a struggling student writing a book. He was a teacher again. He realized that even though his English wasn't perfect, it was better than hers. He could help her. For the next hour, he helped her review for her exam. He explained things simply. He used examples from his own life. When he left the library, he felt energized. The heaviness of the book was gone. He realized that learning is not a solitary act. It is a chain. You learn from someone above you, and you pass it down to someone below you. Samuel started a small study group for beginners at the community center. He taught them the basics. And guess what happened? His own English improved dramatically. When you have to explain a rule to someone else, you have to understand it perfectly yourself. Teaching forced him to master the language. 2 years later, Samuel finished his book. It wasn't perfect. A professional editor had to fix some grammar. But it was his story, told in his voice. He held the printed book in his hands, tears streaming down his face. He had proven everyone wrong. He had proven that the brain does not stop growing unless you stop using it. Samuel's story is a call to action for you. You do not need to be a professor to teach. If you know 5 words, you can teach someone who knows 0 words. If you are at a B1 level, You can help an A1 learner. Start a conversation club. Help your children with their homework. Write a blog post sharing your tips. When you step into the role of a mentor, you step out of the role of a victim. You own the language. It becomes yours. Let's practice this concept of the teacher within. I want you to imagine you are explaining a concept to a beginner. How would you explain the word breakfast? Don't just say morning meal. Explain it. It is the first food you eat in the day. It breaks the fast of the night. Usually, people eat eggs or toast. How would you explain the word weekend? It is Saturday and Sunday. It is the time when most people do not work. It is time for relaxing. Do you see how this forces you to use simple, clear English? Practice this. Pretend you are teaching a child. It is one of the best ways to clarify your own thinking. Think about maintenance. How do you keep your English strong for the rest of your life? You need to build an English ecosystem around you. Change the language of your phone to English. Follow English accounts on Instagram and YouTube. Listen to English music while you cook. Read one news article in English every morning. If you do these small things, you don't need to study. You will just be. English will be the background noise of your life. It will seep into your subconscious. You will start dreaming in English. Have you ever had a dream in English? That is a magical moment. It means your brain has accepted the language as its own. If you haven't had it yet, don't worry. It is coming. I want to address one final emotion: pride. I want you to be proud of your accent. I want you to be proud of your mistakes. I want you to be proud of the times you stuttered and the times you stayed silent. It is all part of the sculpture of you. You are carving a new identity. Do not let anyone ever make you feel small because of your language skills. Speaking a second language is a superpower. It means you have two souls. You have two ways of looking at the world. You are richer than a monolingual person. Wear your English like a badge of honor. As we close this journey, I want to bring all our characters back for a final bow. See Elena, confident in the bakery, ordering her bread with a smile. See Lucas, laughing with his friends in the cafe, no longer lonely. See Sophia, presenting her designs to the board, her voice steady and clear. See Kenji, making jokes about his dancing fish. See Mateo, answering the phone without fear. See Lynn, painting clouds and soaking in the words. See Amara, connecting with her grandson across the ocean. See Hero, warm by the fire, sharing stories with strangers. See Samuel, holding his book, a legacy of his hard work. And finally, see yourself. See yourself standing with them. You are part of this group. You have walked the same path. You have fought the same battles. And you have won. I want you to make a contract with yourself today. A verbal contract. State your name and say this: I, your name, promise to never give up. I promise to be kind to myself. I promise to use my voice to spread good in the world. I believe in my English journey. Seal that contract in your heart. It is binding. This script, this session, is not just an audio track. It is a resource. Come back to it whenever you feel low. Listen to the beginning when you are afraid. Listen to the middle when you need motivation to study. Listen to the end when you need to remember your power. We have built a library here today. Use it. Thank you. 2 simple words, but they mean everything. Thank you for trusting me with your time. Thank you for trusting me with your attention. Thank you for allowing me to be a small part of your incredible life story. Creating this content for you is my passion, and seeing you improve is my reward. Please, one last time, if you have not subscribed to English in Fluency, do it now. Join our community. We are growing stronger every day. And for the final comment of this marathon, I want you to write the most important 3 words of all. Write, I am ready. You are ready for the world. You are ready for the challenges. You are ready for the joy. I am Alex. This has been Believe in Your English Journey. You are improving every single day. You are amazing. Go out there and speak. Go out there and live. Goodbye, my friends. Goodbye and good luck.